A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. This is a brief overview of Ontario's new sex ed curriculum and some of the other content that our children are learning at school. Please note that this is an explicit presentation with inappropriate images and resources. It is important for parents to know what their children are learning and will be learning at school. Before we look at the sex ed curriculum, let's look at some of the key people. Kathleen Wayne, the Premier of Ontario, is an openly lesbian woman who prides herself in participating in activities promoting gay and lesbian rights. The Deputy Education Minister under her, Benjamin Levin, is currently facing child pornography charges in the Court of Law in Ontario. The largest school board in Ontario, the TDSB, is an active participant of the Gay Pride Parade. TDSB teachers are asked to encourage students to make charts and other items for the float. The float is considered one of the best for the parade and has won prizes from the organizers of the parade. The parade features people without clothes. It features gays and lesbian openly kissing, as you can see in one of the pictures. And it also features Kathleen Wayne and a number of TDSB teachers and officials who actively participate in the parade. TDSB also published this poster that you can see, which says "Love has no gender," and shows relationships between two men, two women, and one woman and two men. A TDSB teacher who put the gay bar posters, which you can see on the left and right, into his classroom for 13-year-olds was briefly removed from the job and has been reinstated and is still teaching as a teacher at TDSB. Let us also look at some of the other organizations that support this curriculum and have been lobbying actively to implement it in the schools. One of these organizations is called Planned Parenthood. The Planned Parenthood promotes safe sex and abortions, and it also promotes a number of what it calls healthy sexual activities for teenagers. The text that you read here is directly from their website. The Planned Parenthood is partnering with the government as well as with school boards to organize various classes as well as provide resources for the teenagers to explore themselves and each other. Some of the other organizations that are actively promoting the implementation of the new curriculum are also organizations that promote pornography, casual sex, group sex, and they also promote removing the shackles of God's moral laws from the society. In addition to the sex ed curriculum, the school boards also provide guidance to teachers about the types of books that should be read with the students so that they can explore their gender and sexual orientations. Some of these books that are promoted at the elementary levels include 10,000 Dresses, My Princess Boy, Different Dragon, Sissy Duckling, Girls Will Be Boys, Boys Will Be Girls, and a number of other books that promote an agenda meant to encourage homosexuality and meant to encourage students to explore and look at sexuality as something that is not bounded by religious values or morality. Although the TDSB provides guidance to its teachers not to allow students to skip sex ed classes, it is possible for parents to talk to the principal and get the exemption for the child. However, if any parent believes for a minute that just by having their children removed from the sex ed classes is going to have an effect on their learning, then they're absolutely false. The children are learning not just from their teachers, but in fact they're actively learning from the students around them. If all the 13-year-olds in a child's class are learning about oral sex and anal sex as well as other concepts, then it is not possible for that child not to learn about those concepts from its peer, whether or not they attend that particular sex ed class. We are on the religion of our friends according to the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. And as you can see, 83% of Ontario students in grade 12 drink alcohol, 49% of them admit to binge drinking. We have to ask the type of company that our students, our children are in 40 hours a week, and what is the effect that it is having on their spirituality. Today we are seeing more and more cases of Muslim men, in fact Shia men and women, who are getting involved with a variety of activities. Our community is in denial, and everyone feels that it will never happen to their children. The pictures that you see here are from various protest rallies or gay pride parades in which Muslims have started appearing more and more. We recently had a case in Toronto where two boys married each other, yet they continue to attend majalis and perform matam and latmiya as well. According to their doctor, they do not see anything wrong with homosexuality and firmly believe that this is how God had created them. How can someone who claims to be a follower of Ahlul Bayt actually firmly believe that they are homosexual and engage in those activities as well? It starts from early on. If you look at the sexual education curriculum, 8-year-olds which are in grade 2 or 3 are being taught that it is perfectly normal to have two mothers or two fathers. 10-year-olds are told that there are things that you cannot control. These include things like where I was born. None of us control where we were born, of course. It does not include who is in my family. I do not have a choice about my parents. I do not control how much money my family makes, and I do not control things such as skin color and hair color, whether I am male or female. So up to here, of course, what they're saying is correct. However, in addition to these things, they also teach our students that my gender identity, which is this idea that I may be born as a male but may feel that I'm a female, or I may be born as a female and may feel as a male, is not something that is in my control. I also do not control my sexual orientation, which means that if I am homosexual, that is how I was created. And I also do not control my learning disability or my physical disability or any of those things. Now, as you can see in this paragraph, they have identified a number of concepts which are indeed things that you do not control and mix them with homosexuality as well as gender identity. And for 10-year-olds, this sounds like a very logical argument and a very logical thing, especially when coming from a position of authority such as a teacher. For the 12-year-olds, it actually describes that it is perfectly, again, normal to have two mothers or two fathers. And it is also okay to have one parent and one grandparent or a guardian. So it encourages the students not to assume that couples are of opposite sex and that we should not use words like husband or wife, and should in fact refer to the couples as partners, as they can be two men and two women. What you see in the pictures are a product of learning these concepts at a very early age. Children are a blessing and amana of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is incumbent upon us as parents to ensure their physical and spiritual excellence and safety. According to Stats Canada, 68% of 18 and 19-year-olds have had intercourse, 36% with multiple partners. If 9, 10, 11, and 12-year-olds are discussing these topics at this particular age, it is no wonder that a significant percentage of them would grow up without the concepts of haya or the concepts of morality about these issues. When we bring down the sexuality to a clinical type of topic which is unbounded by any laws of God, then it becomes very easy for children to go ahead and commit Gunhan Kabira and Saghira. On the bottom left corner, you see a Shia girl who became a pole dancer and then later on was selected as Miss World. How did this girl, who was born into a Shia family, ended up in this position? Again, you can see that many of these things are starting early. 11-year-olds are being taught, sometimes by an opposite gender teacher, many times in a coeducational environment. Again, 11-year-olds are being taught that things like wet dreams or vaginal lubrication are normal and happen as a result of physical changes with puberty. Exploring one's body by touching or masturbating is something that many people do and find pleasurable. It is common and is not harmful and is one of the ways of learning about your body. Having sex can be an enjoyable experience and can be an important part of a close relationship when you are older. But having sex has risks too, including physical risks like sexually transmitted infections, which are common and which can hurt you, and getting pregnant when you don't want to. Engaging in sexual activities like oral sex, vaginal intercourse, and anal intercourse means that you can be infected with an STI. Once again, this is a direct cut and paste from the curriculum from 11 and 13-year-olds. And 13-year-olds are being introduced to the concepts of oral sex, vaginal intercourse, and anal intercourse by teachers who are not their mahram and often in a coeducational classroom. The pictures you see on this slide are Muslim men who, based on this concept of gender identity, felt that they were actually women. You can see that there are a number of concepts that are being taught to our students without any morality or ethics or religious boundaries. I had an opportunity to visit a community of 10,000 Jews near New York. The community is part of a place called Montebello. I asked the rabbi there how many of their students attended public schools. The answer I got really shocked me. The rabbi told me that the total number of school students from this particular community that attend public schools is 0. I asked him again, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yes, we have not saved our religion for 4,000 years by sending our children to study from teachers who do not believe on the God of Moses and Abraham." Our students, our lovely children, are being exposed to ideas and concepts that is resulting in an ideological damage that would make it extremely hard for them to retain their religious values and identity as they grow into adults. The ideological onslaught on our children is constant and unrelenting. It is being done through the sex ed curriculum, through the regular curriculum, through the media, internet, and a variety of other ways. We cannot undo this damage by taking our child for a few hours a week to a Sunday school or Duai Kumail or mosque events only. We have to develop alternative educational systems that allow an environment for tarbiyah of the children, which is based on the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. If we believe that after all of this education our child will not be affected, then we are in denial and are only fooling ourselves. If we believe that it would never happen to our child, then we are not being truthful to ourselves and are not fulfilling our responsibility as parents. As followers of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, we cannot take the stance that we are following what everyone else is doing. Remember, the normal thing to do on the day of Ashura, which was being done by tens of thousands of individuals, was to either be in Yazid's army or to be on the sidelines. being part of the 72 of the army of Hussein was not the normal thing to do at that time. It was not what the majority was doing. If we want our children to become the Ansar of the grandson of our Imam, inshallah, we need to ask ourselves about the type of environment they should be in to ensure their chances of success for becoming the helpers of the grandson of our Imam. We have to ask ourselves that would we be able to answer to our Imam when he asks that I sacrifice myself and my family so that you could have the religion in its purest form. And what did you do to the amana that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to you? We have to be careful that our post-colonial inferiority complex and our love of the dunya does not direct us in a manner where we end up losing our generation like so many others within a matter of 20 to 50 years. We have to ensure that our grandchildren continue to be the azadar of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. For those of us who worry about halal and haram, we need to take this presentation to Ayatollah Sistani and others and ask them the question, is it okay for us to send our children to this environment? We need to ask, just like we do for the various types of zabiya, halal, chicken, and so many other issues, that is it allowed for us to put our children named Hussein, Abbas, Fatima, and Zahra in these environments so that they can learn math, science, and along with math, science, learn all of this as well. We have to ask ourselves that even if we are able to save our children from some of these sexual and substance abuse issues, what is the lens that these schools are going to create for our children? How do we think that by sending our children to a cricketer, we will have them grow up as football players? When you send your children to a cricketer, they are going to teach them how to play cricket. If you send them to a soccer player, they will learn how to play soccer. If you send them to a person who does not believe on God, then he will teach your children that they need to not believe on God either. If you put them in a system that promotes homosexuality, gender identity, and feminism, then your child will have various types of issues. If not in the area of homosexuality and substance abuse, then at the minimum they would have very challenging marriages, as they would not learn the concepts that are taught by Imam Zainul Abidin in Makarim al-Akhlaq, but they will instead learn the Western definition of the role of the women and men in the married lives. I pray that inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the tawfiq to all of us to make the right decision. A decision that would allow us to face our Imam in our graves and face Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.